Yeah, this'll do. Welcome to Synth Saturday number 5. So this one's obviously a little bit different. There's not this ominous arpeggiated tones of synth in the background as it gives the name Synth Saturday number whatever. And that is because, as you can see, I'm in a hotel room. I'm not in my home, I'm actually on a work trip. I'm at a conference in Louisville, Kentucky for music directors, which is very exciting. I've never done anything like this before. I've never been to Kentucky. And I guess there's a river right next to my hotel, and just on the other side of the river is Indiana. So I was able to cross off 2 states on this trip, which is very cool. This week, since I'm on a trip, I kind of had to decide, do I write 2 Synth Saturdays the week prior to my trip and then just release the second one right after the trip, or do I do something different? I decided to do something different because it just seemed like the right time to do something different. And plus I didn't want to stress myself out with trying to write 2 in 1 week. That just wasn't the energy I was going for these couple weeks. I'm actually going to talk with you about the gear that I use, the synthesizers that I use, starting with the first piece of gear that I was able to attain. The first synthesizer that I got was the Moog Werkstatt. I say Werkstatt, but because in German it's Werkstatt. Werkstatt? Werkstatt. The Werkstatt 01 by Moog. And all that is just a single modular synth, semi-modular synth, single oscillator. And that was the first synthesizer that I have ever owned, and it's a fully analog synthesizer. And I remember the first day that I got it, I put it together because it's kind of a build-it-yourself synthesizer that Moog created. For a very low price. That was actually the biggest reason why I bought it, was because it was $200. And for those of you guys who know anything about the price of synthesizers, you'll know that synthesizers are really, really expensive and they will break your bank fast. So I got the Werkstatt, I put it together, I plugged it in, I started, tweaking knobs and stuff, and I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. This sounds so cool. But aside from just the cool sounds that were kind of coming out of it, I didn't really know how to use it. I didn't really know how to use synthesizers that well. I didn't really know how filters worked and how resonance worked, and attack and decay and sustain and release. I just didn't really understand it. And so I kind of put the Werkstatt off to the side because it was still kind of foreign looking to me. So then I actually got in contact with my friend Anthony Campolo, because I knew that he had a Arturia Microbrute, the first generation, in his possession. Anthony is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a really long time. We're both musicians. He's a great musician, and we had done some jam sessions in the past, and I remember him bringing that synthesizer, and I was like, man, that is such a cool instrument. I don't know what it does or how it works, but it's just a cool instrument. And so I had kind of contacted him about possibly buying it from him. And he was like, yeah, dude, you can buy it, but it's not really working right now. It kind of doesn't turn on. And I was like, well, crap. Well, can I still buy it? Maybe I can fix it. So he sold it to me for a very, very low price because it wasn't working. So I did a bunch of research on forums online, I figured out that it was a fuse that needed to be replaced, so I was able to open it up, replace the fuse, and voila. The third analog synthesizer that I acquired was the Moog Little Fatty Stage 2. That synthesizer holds a very, very special place in my heart because of all of the history of that specific synthesizer. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys this very long story because I think it kind of makes the story of how I got into electronic music very special. You know, it kind of like opens up the curtains, you know. So many moons ago, in the summer of 2009, I was working as a lifeguard. That was my summer job during college. And a handful of the lifeguards and I all went to lunch. And I think I was listening to Rat-a-tat in my car, and one of the guys that came with us, his name was Armando. And Armando was like, "Hey, you like Rat-a-tat? Like, that's cool. Like, do you like electronic music?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't really know a lot of electronic music. Like, Rat-a-tat is kind of like the first like electronic music group that I, listened to." So sometime after that, Armando ended up inviting me over to hang out and listen to music. And I'll never forget it because when I went over, the first thing that caught my eye was this keyboard off to the side. It, with this really interesting shape, this interesting cutout on the back. And I'd never seen anything like that before. And I was like, "Hey, like, what is this?" And he was like, "It's a synthesizer." And I was just like, "Oh, cool. Like, can I play it?" And so I'll never forget because I went up to it and I was just like, and tried to play a chord, and only one note sounded. And he was like, "Yeah, it's monophonic. You can only play one note at a time." And I remember just being like, "Oh, that sucks. Like, that really sucks," Because at the time, I played piano, so I was just like so accustomed to just playing chordal stuff, But I kind of just like passed it off. I was kind of just like, that sucks that I can only play one note at a time. But the one thing I did really appreciate about it was the ability to change the way that the notes sound. That was something that was very, very interesting to me. So fast forward some years, I would say like maybe 5-6 years from the time that I had first seen the Moog Little Fatty. I remember messaging Armando and being like, "Hey dude, like I'm really into electronic music now. I'm trying to like make my own electronic music. Do you still have that Moog? Like, have you ever thought about selling it?" And he was like, "Yeah, I still have it." He was like, "But not really trying to sell it, And which is totally fine because I don't think I would have been able to afford it anyway, because synthesizers are expensive. So fast forward again, about 5-6 years, and I had just bought the Workstat, okay? And I posted a story on my Instagram of me playing the Moog Workstat. And I get a message from Armando. And the message says, "Buy my Moog." And I was like, say less, man. Like, say less. I will name your price. And obviously, Armando, being such a longtime friend, he hooked me up with a really, really, really generous price that was definitely, I feel I'm very grateful for. because the instrument was basically new. Even though it was like over a decade old, Mondo had taken very good care of it, and he didn't use it that much. So I was essentially getting a new synthesizer for a really, really good price. So when I finally acquired the Moog, when I finally had it in my hands, it was like the first or second week of June. So I used it for Synth Saturday No. 2. And I was so excited. I was just so excited, because I was just like, man, like, it just sounds so good. Because anybody who knows what a Moog sounds like, you know that the second you hear it, it's like, it's incredible. Last and certainly not least, the last piece of gear that I got was on my birthday last year, which was the MXR Talkbox. I had gotten it at the beginning of season 1 of Synth Saturdays, but I was like not ready to use it. I did not know how it worked. I just didn't. I was like kind of scared of it, because I was like, I know this sounds really cool, but I don't even know how to use my synthesizers. How am I going to use something that connects to my synthesizers? So for those of you guys who don't know what a Talkbox is or how it works, essentially it's just a box that connects to your synthesizer, and the sound from your synthesizer goes into the box and out of the tube. So you put the tube in your mouth, and then the sound goes into your mouth, and all you do is you make the shapes of the words with your mouth, and the sound resonates in your mouth, and then out comes the classic Talkbox sound. The MXR Talkbox was a really special instrument too, because I got it from my brother Sebastian. He bought it for me, and I remember just being like elated, because I was like, dude, like, I can't wait till I can use this. And so I definitely promised myself that I would use it for season 2 of Synth Saturdays, and that was what I used in Synth Saturday No. 2, season 2. So lastly, I want to say thank you to all of you who have helped me kind of like become the electronic musician that I am today. Specifically, like my friend Anthony, my friend Armando, my brother. You guys kind of actually literally helped me by giving me an opportunity to purchase these instruments from you and learn these instruments, because if I didn't do that, my journey as technical and raw might not have been the same. I probably would have had to go a different route. I want to thank all of you guys that listen to my music. I make music for the sole purpose of sharing it with you and anybody who takes the time to listen to it, because I know what it feels like for me when I find new music, and I'm like just so happy about it, to find music, or maybe an artist that I had never heard of makes a song, and then I hear it for the first time, and it's just like that song that I needed at that period of time in my life. And that feeling feels really, really good on the receiving end. And the only reason I write music is to hopefully provide that same experience for you, the listener, and anybody else, It really is something special to share music, to share any kind of art. And I encourage all of you out there to support the emerging artists. Support them. They are working their asses off. Give those emerging artists a chance. Don't just tear them down. right away, especially if production isn't, what it could be, or maybe they're just learning their gear, maybe they're just learning what the sounds sound like. Everybody starts somewhere, and I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have people in my life that were like objectively, that gave me objective constructive criticism, those who supported me no matter what and said great job, because those are the people that have really helped me to keep making art, because I'm like, okay, I can grow from this, I can make something better, something that I'm more proud of. So before I go, I just want to say, stay safe, stay healthy out there. Synth Saturdays will resume as normal for Synth Saturday number 6. Thank you for listening to my spiel of history with my synthesizers, and I hope you guys take care. See you later.